Hello, it's Daryl here. We genuinely have a really good show for you today, rounding up all the weekend action. We also did what I want to call a big show this past Thursday when Taylor and I did our plans for Pro Rel. We each put forward a plan for promotion relegation. If you haven't heard that show, I would encourage/ask you to go back and listen to it. Today's show is sponsored by SeatGeek. They make buying tickets to sports and concerts easier than ever. You can do it on your phone with the app. You download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code TSS and you'll get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. That's download the SeatGeek app, enter the promo code TSS. You get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by the man who I think might secretly be Santa. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Is it? I hope it's the beard more so than like the physical characteristics.
It's not. No, it's not portliness.
It's not the bowl full of jelly.
It's not the bowl full of jelly.
All right, good.
But it is. I feel like you've been very busy lately, and you've been like working on other stuff. And I feel like as the 25th gets closer, so you've got this second job that you're not telling me about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's what Santa would say.
I don't have a bunch of elves working at my house.
I'm going to check your house.
I have a tiny dog who stares at me while I'm doing other things. Does that count?
Dressed in green.
Well, obviously.
All right. So now that you're at your day job, though, shall we talk some soccer? We're going to do our weekend review. Thumbs up, thumbs down. We're going to start with the Premier League, but we've got to hit the Bundesliga later.
That works for me.
Where certain American teenagers were involved in certain games. I'll say no more. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah. I think it's pretty clear who you're talking about, and I'm excited to get to it. I'll also add that the projects that you seem to be alluding to are masonry work and brickwork in my backyard. Mm-hmm. You're always welcome to come, Daryl. I know how much you want to do manual labor for free.
I'm busy those days.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Where do you want to start with the thumbs up, thumbs down?
In the fact, backyard, you mean?
Can I preempt you and say that it has to be Man City Tottenham?
I mean,
because that was kind of the big...
Probably the place to go, and I want to say... Thumbs up to Pep Guardiola, because I think maybe we've talked about this before, but it's something that I've slowly been stumbling upon, is amongst all of his different plans for how to attack, I genuinely believe that one of his guiding philosophies is they're most vulnerable when they're confident. Because it seems like City so frequently turn an opponent in a strong position into a goal for Manchester City. They did it twice in this game as far as I could see. Once was a Tottenham throw-in about 10 yards from City's end line. Yep. Once was a Tottenham throw-in from midfield. Both of them rapid-fire became counter-attack goals for Man City.
So Man City won 4-1. I think we've just learned the secret is don't take throw-ins against Man City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Yeah, and I think that this
refuse them or say, no, you have it.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. That's definitely no, we're good. But I mean, it is...
Can you foul? You could foul throw each time to give it back to Man City.
I think that's the obvious way to go here. And you slow the game down, too. But it's obviously that, it's not just that Tottenham were, sloppy with their throw-ins. It's what Manchester City are doing. And if you look at it, it is they've got everybody surrounded and marked off so that eventually the player that seems... I almost genuinely think that, the player that seems the most attractive at that point is the player that Man City want you to throw the ball to. Yeah, kind of. Admiral Akbar would appreciate that commentary from you.
He certainly would.
But I mean, yeah, and so it's the way they mark on those set pieces, and then obviously the way they score goals on set pieces too. It's definitely Pep Guardiola has found new and exciting ways to humiliate opposition defenses.
So before we get into specifics on goals then, I do want to talk about this weird approach because... or this weird turnabout of events. Because if you remember last season, I'm pretty sure the first time that Man City kind of came undone was when they came up against Spurs. Yep. And Spurs pressed them really high. And it was Claudio Bravo trying to play it out to probably Kolarov or Zabaleta to the fullbacks.
None of those guys made any mistakes this weekend.
But then Spurs did a really good job of confidently pressing them and Man City couldn't play out. And I'm pretty sure Spurs beat them. And that's when Man City stopped being seen as this kind of unbeatable team, right? This, I think it's a little later in the year, but this time Spurs went to play Man City, went with a similar-ish high press, and this time Man City had all the answers.
Yep.
And I would say one of the answers, I know most people will have picked up on this already, so it's not like we're breaking ground here, is Ederson in goal. Because suddenly this is a guy who can pick out a pass from distance and play it sort of hard and pretty accurate.
Yeah, so... Okay, I know you want... Well, let's get to the specifics of how he does that first, because then I have a question after that. So what is it exactly that impresses you about his distribution, aside from the accuracy?
I think the speed. He does it almost as Spurs are still up on top of Man City. All those lines are there to sort of stop you playing out, right? But he can break straight through them, either with a long kick. Remember we saw his long kicks against Manchester United that lands at a teammate.
Oh, I remember them.
Yeah, you're right. Or there's a lot of times he would ping it diagonally out to fullbacks. And often, I think he's left-footed, so it most often went out to Kyle Walker, or I think Raheem Sterling was on the right wing. And the one that really sticks in my head is they call it the sidewinder goal kick, or sidewinder punt that Jordan Pickford does. He picked out Kyle Walker sort of through a kind of a forest of Spurs players. And I think all the Spurs players were like, whoa, that wasn't supposed to happen. Because you think when you press a team, when the keeper's got the ball, you close down all the short passing angles and you think, I'm going to make him kick it long. But what if he can either kick it long accurately and find someone, or he can break through the press himself and find a fullback?
Well, I think my question, though, remains with him. Is this a thing that Pep Guardiola has just conceded, okay, fine, you don't have to pass? Because it really was last season, to your point about this game last time, it was Claudio Bravo, really just obviously being forced. You are not allowed to kick it long, you have to play it short. And Spurs were just okay, cool, we know what you're going to do. It was almost funny. Whereas now he does have that distribution, and it makes me wonder if Pep Guardiola has just said okay, now I trust your distribution. I know you can hit these passes accurately, so feel free to use that if you need to.
I think to me this is where I salute Pep Guardiola, right? Because last season when this happened, I think I was on this show saying, hey, Pep's just got to accept that you can't just slowly pass it out the back. You've got to have a plan B. You've got to have sort of a target man that you can aim at as an outlet. And then so Pep hasn't listened to me, because obviously he knows better. He's got a much smarter solution, which is, how about if I have this keeper who can play these accurate passes and I can slice through the press? Do you know what I mean? It's a much more elegant and clever and dangerous solution than a big long ball to a target man and maybe he wins a 50-50 header.
I don't know, because I still think that it is, at the end of the day, a long ball, though, right?
Here's the other thing, though. It's not an aimless long ball. It's a direct pass. Because
it's a direct over ball, as we've christened it.
But no, because it's not over and for people to run onto. A lot of it is, if you go back and watch, in fact, someone put a video out of the collected passes from this game. A lot of it is Man City players moving because they know this pass is coming, and the ball lands. Not everyone is perfect, but then the ball lands at their feet. So they're not just long balls lofted up for people to chase. They are hard passes into midfield or out to the fullbacks. So it's still all very under control. It's just going a lot farther and a lot faster than, again, Claudio Bravo or Joe Hart passing to Zabaleta or Kolarov, and then everyone crossed their fingers.
But I still think that that it's a different strategy, though.
Yeah, it's different. But
that's the key thing for me is that, again, last season it was you didn't even have to wonder how do you beat Man City, because they would do it every time, and Tottenham would just be all right, they're going to pass there. As soon as it goes to the fullback, we'll put three people on him and we're going to get the ball back.
But is this not I want to call it a plus for Pep, because it's he's found a way that isn't just the slowly passing forward, that also isn't the risk of playing it up to a big striker and hoping for a knockdown. It's much more sort of direct and goes to people's feet in the end.
Yeah, I think it's still a weird thing where
it's an adaptation. It's a really clever adaptation.
See, I guess that's what I go to is I don't know if it's really clever or if we think it's really clever because it's Pep Guardiola doing it. I think it is a smart solution, but to me it is still you're passing the ball 30, 40 yards to a player's feet. That's very good. That's very good technical ability. But I still wonder if it were Tony Pulis who came up with this strategy of how to avoid that first wave of pressure, if we would be this is such an innovative approch.
But he wouldn't come up with that approach, really. That's the thing, because he hasn't got the quality of players to do something like this.
Probably true.
I think this is the thing that I get to, is this is a very high-end thing, right? It's a goalkeeper with very accurate and very confident passing, and it's players who are sort of smart enough and fast enough to find the space to be available for that pass in a crowd of Spurs players who are willing to try and win the ball.
Yep.
And this doesn't just go for Ederson's goal kicks and punts. This goes for Man City's passing in general.
Yep.
So many passes at such a high pace that I think the majority of players would not be able to control them, and yet everybody was bringing balls down almost all the time.
Well, you say everybody. I would say everybody wearing blue.
Yeah, well, exactly. But honestly, I don't think I wouldn't have had the faith in Kyle Walker controlling some of the really firm, fast passes coming his way a couple of years ago. And it definitely, as a Man City player, he is killing those balls dead. So that's where I take my hat off to Pep, because he's really sort of up to the tempo and the pace and the firmness of the passes, including from the goalkeeper.
I think it also speaks to the recruitment system that they've established. That when we saw them going after Ederson, it was oh well, that makes sense. It's he's okay with his feet and he's got, but there was no real look into why they were pursuing him.
And we didn't know it would be an advancement in the way that they play.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I'm kind of excited to see.
But it just makes me wonder, like, how involved their scouting network is, that it is sort of they've identified this goalkeeper who can play this sort of long ball. This is exactly what they want, so we're going to go for him, but let's keep it under wraps.
But I wouldn't even call it a long ball, because some of them are just like to midfield or to the side. You know
I guess it's a categorization thing, but to me, midfield is a long ball. But I'm with you. I get your point.
You're even more of a purist than Pep.
Yeah, you're right. No long balls at all. Ball should leave the ground.
Probably enough on Ederson. Any other thumbs up, thumbs down from this game?
I mean, yeah, I've got thumbs up to City set piece chaos because again, like we've talked about it previously, that City don't have tremendous height, and yet they still seem to manage to score off set pieces or at least cause problems.
Yep.
This game was no exception, and it starts
usually Otamendi, right?
He's usually in there, but in this game, it's basically it's the same thing we saw in the Manchester derby. It's City players starting from like relatively deep for a set piece, usually from like just outside the 18, then charging in, but everybody kind of breaking at different moments and going to different directions, and it
running
really
weird patterns, right? I feel like they've almost got an NFL style playbook of like this is your route, and it's very zigzaggy.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. And so United, it seemed like, tried to deal with this by keeping everybody up and almost just tracking all the runners. This time around, it seems like what Spurs tried to do was a hybrid where they had some man marking, but then like three at the top of the top of the six.
I definitely remember seeing Harry Kane and Winks sort of just standing at the edge of the 6-yard line.
Yeah, and it's still like the case that if you're reacting to it, you're still reacting to it. If you're not moving to meet that ball first, then you're not being the aggressor, and it leaves opportunities. That said, the man who ends up scoring off this set piece, it's not like he was making a particularly clever run.
I think it was a very clever run. Ilkay Gundogan sort of strolls through all the chaos, almost tiptoes through the chaos to be the one that doesn't get noticed and then just heads this home. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Really?
Yeah. I've actually got thumbs up to Ilkay Gundogan for being the moonwalking bear.
Okay.
And you either just laughed or you were very confused by what I just said.
I did neither, but it's because I knew what you were talking about because we just watched this video previously.
So there was a thing called the Transport for London awareness test. This is maybe 2008 or so. It was a viral video. And it was two basketball teams on the screen, right? One in black uniforms, one in white uniforms. And it just says awareness test. How many passes does the team in white uniforms make, right? So you watch it and all the white uniform players are moving around. Black uniform players are moving around. They're all passing the ball back and forth. And you have to focus very hard to follow the ball, concentrate on the white team. Then at the end, it says the correct answer was 13, but did you notice the moonwalking bear? And when you play it back, there is a bear very slowly walks into shot, waves at the camera.
I mean, a guy dressed as a bear.
A guy dressed as a bear, sorry, yeah.
Otherwise it'd be slightly more noteworthy.
And then moonwalks out, kind of. Not great moonwalking, but moonwalks out backwards. And you genuinely don't notice him because you're so focused on all the sort of white uniform, basketball team buzzing around everywhere. That's what I think Gundogan kind of did, is all the other Man City players were buzzing around, Spurs were trying to follow them, and Gundogan just tiptoes through. He didn't actually moonwalk, but he did head home.
Yes, he did. And I mean, I think it's if you want to go that route, I'll say then it's a good disguised run from Gundogan. That's it. It really doesn't like adjust at all. It is just sort of like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like if you want to leave me wide open.
He's the only one doing that one thing that he's doing, right? Everyone else is running quickly.
And it almost like it almost frustrates me a little bit, not as a Man United fan, but just because it's like, stop letting Man City score these goals to further the narrative that if you give them one chance, they're going to take it. Because it really was in this situation. Everybody is still relatively marked up on their players. They've got like the short corner covered. They've got that zone covered. They've got the post out with. And it's Son doesn't really track.
Yeah.
And because he
Son
doesn't
was
track,
supposed to be like watching Gundogan at the top of the box. If that ball pops loose, Gundogan's the guy who's there to like maybe have the long range shot, right? You always have that player doing that. And I think Son seems kind of confused that Gundogan has moved out of that spot.
Yeah, and I think that's why it probably is a smarter run that I'm giving Ilkay Gundogan.
It's a moonwalking bear run.
Because he basically is just like, okay, like, because it is the equivalent of like Song facing the corner taker and then having Gundogan behind him and just being like, I'm sure he'll stay there. And like, but again, it goes to that narrative of then Gundogan scores, and it's like you had everybody marked, but you give them that one chance, they're going to find a way to score. It's like, guys, stop giving them the one chance.
Before we move on,
consistently every game.
Anything else from this game?
Yeah, I'm just going to say thumbs down to Spurs center backs. Not a very good game for either one of them. Jan Vertonghen conceded the penalty.
Yeah.
Albeit at that point it was that made it 3-0. And then Eric Dyer with a whiffed, I think trying to pass it one time, maybe trying to settle it. Either way, he whiffs it. That allows Raheem Sterling in, and then Raheem Sterling eventually converts for the fourth goal.
He misses and accidentally nutmegs Lloris and then scores, right?
Yes, Raheem Sterling does, yeah.
I think Eric Dyer was basically trying to intercept the Bernardo Silva pass and just just didn't connect.
Well, I think
connected a tiny bit.
I really can't tell if he's like trying to intercept it or if he's trying to make a pass. But either way, it's not very good.
Can I say thumbs up to Raheem Sterling?
You may.
For scoring late goals even when it's not important.
Yeah.
So he scored in the 80th and the 90th, and this time they didn't even need it, but he did. But he did it anyway.
He's got to keep his late goal scoring form in place so that he can do it when it matters.
You got to stay hot in case it's 1-1 next week.
But Vertonghen's penalty, like that was so bad that in my mind I had this narrative that like he's trying to keep all the hype about Belgium at the World Cup down because you've got Kevin De Bruyne, you've got Eden Hazard. So he was like, I got to do something. So people are like, oh, but they still got that defense.
Can we just say a general thumbs up to Kevin De Bruyne's
he's real good.
Performance?
He's real good.
I think he was named man of the match in the stadium. I'm not sure who chooses that, but he did all the sort of closing down angles for the pressing. He was covering all kinds of ground. He was picking out like really clever passes. I think the corner that City win for the Gundogan goal is Kevin De Bruyne trying a pass, failing, it bounces loose, and he does like a on-the-swivel volley to play it to, I believe, Sterling out wide.
Yeah, he's good.
And then there's the finish for the second goal, which was, I feel like, unfair. You should not be allowed to hit a ball that hard.
After getting aggressively fouled, no less.
Yes,
so
of course.
It's also a reminder of don't foul him or he'll get angry.
Don't make him angry.
You don't want him angry.
You don't want to make his face red.
You do not, even though it does that automatically.
No, he'll make your face red.
Well, angry is when he's angry. Pink is when he's like exerting any sort of physical energy.
He goes from red to pink.
Exactly.
He's the opposite of a good steak.
Yeah.
Anything else from this game?
Did you say a good steak?
Yeah.
Good job, Daryl. Not from that game.
All right. So, congrats to Man City.
Yeah.
4-1 over Spurs. Still 11 points clear because Man United also won. I'm going to say thumbs up to Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain.
That works for me.
For rescuing Felipe Coutinho and Sky Sports viewers from transfer speculation torture.
All right.
This is after Liverpool's 4-0 away win over Bournemouth. Felipe Coutinho is speaking to a Sky Sports reporter, and Ox is there sort of with his arm around him. And the reporter asks him a kind of an annoying question, right? After that great performance from Coutinho, where he scores a really great goal, he has at least one assist, and the reporter asks him about his potential move to Barcelona.
Yep.
He says, there's so much speculation about you. How desperate are you to stay a part of this Liverpool team, at least until the end of the season? Again, like Admiral Akbar says, that question is a trap.
Yep.
And Coutinho kind of stumbles his way through it and is not quite sure what to say. And Ox just cuts in and sort of says, hey, listen, this guy's the most professional guy on the team. He trains hard. He brings it. He performs every week. I don't think it's really fair that you ask that question.
Yeah.
And then kind of covers it and it's over.
And two things there. One, he puts the arm around him when he interjects. So that's my favorite part is that he lets Oxlade-Chamberlain or lets Coutinho do his own thing. And then once that question becomes a problem, that's when he puts the arm around. But number two, to say that Coutinho stumbles, like I know this isn't necessarily what you're saying, but just to clarify, like it's because there's no way you can answer that question satisfactorily because either Coutinho completely ends like any interest in Barcelona, or he refuses to end, or he's wishy-washy.
That's why it's a trap.
Yeah, and so I think that's where he's, and also not a native English speaker, trying to give an answer in English. It's a very difficult process. So I think Oxlade-Chamberlain definitely deserves credit for just being like, all right, let's move it along here.
Can I give a salute to a guy called Paul on Twitter? He's at Cololology. He says that Ox's stats for this game were 4 key passes and 4 interceptions. And of those 4 interceptions, 3 were during the game and 1 was during the interview. Well, can we talk a little about Coutinho's goal?
Well, we can. Can I say thumbs up to Oxlade-Chamberlain, Roberto Firmino, and Andy Robertson for getting credited with assists, even though all three of them were like, here's the ball. Oh, you scored? I get the points for that? Is that how that works?
So you just gave it to a talented player and let them dribble past 2 or 3 people and score. Yeah.
Yes. So that's like the cynical view. I will add that for Coutinho's goal, it is a really skillful 1-2.
I want to say it's Messi-esque, but I feel like that puts us into dangerous territory.
Yes, it is. But it's a good 1-2 with Robertson, and then Robertson does make a really smart run to pull the defender away.
Yes, he does.
So gets credit there. Firmino 1 is the one where he basically like... it's still skillful to keep this ball in bounds and put it back into play.
Oh, is this the corner that he pops back in?
The Lovren header for the goal. Yeah, but again, that's going to get the attention is Dejan Lovren doing a diving header. And then Oxlade-Chamberlain with like that kind of smart reverse pass that splits the defense, but then it's Mohamed Salah doing Mohamed Salah things that ends with the goal.
That's the beating 2 or 3 people and then scoring, right?
Yeah.
Did you notice on the that Lovren header goal, when Coutinho's taking the corner kick, he's kind of like positioning people left and right and saying,
no, I didn't notice
he's
that.
Like, with his hands waving people in various directions.
Interesting.
And it ends with, I think it's Wijnaldum who meets at the near post and flicks it like maybe too high in the end because then Firmino has to keep it back in. But I think the way the corner was played and the gestures that Coutinho was making, I'm pretty sure he was positioning Wijnaldum to do that.
It's like a Minority Report situation.
Kind of,
moving it all around and repositioning.
Or a Jedi.
That makes more sense. That's a better one. That's a better one. And slightly more topical.
It's more on topic, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Anything else from that game? I mean, obviously lots of thumbs up for Liverpool.
I have thumbs down to whatever cameraman was next to the main microphone, because he kept making me think my computer was about to break. Because in watching like the extended highlights of this game, it is just rapid fire, like click, 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 click. But it's that thing where you just like don't notice it. And so every time I kept muting my computer because I thought like the fan or something had dramatically broken, but instead it's just because the rapid fire camera is right next to the mic, and it threw me off at least 4 times.
How about some thumbs for Ox again?
Sure.
Because, so we mentioned his work in the interview. He actually got to play central midfield in this game, and from all accounts, looked like he was loving it. And that's why he moved there, right? Not to play right back, not to play right wing, but to play central midfield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think credit to the match of the day guys afterwards for basically pointing out that like his style is a bit more like aggressive and fast-paced, and maybe that never quite fit with what Arsenal were trying to do, with a little bit more like sustained possession, moving the ball around so you find the moment you want to take advantage of. And so maybe with Liverpool, it actually does make more sense for him to be in the middle, because that's kind of their style through the middle suits his game plan.
Yeah, lots of high energy.
Yep,
He's got trouble when Adam Lallana's back, I think.
I also want to say, final thing on this one is just thumbs up to the idea that Mohamed Salah has to score before the game can end, because he had a good 2 chances that he probably should have finished earlier, and it really is just sort of like, what, like, is the game over yet? Has Salah scored? Now he has. Okay, the game can end. That's how it works.
It's not over till Mo says.
No.
Right.
But I did want to add, though, Daryl, Bournemouth and Jermaine Defoe. I saw Jermaine Defoe sub into this game, and I found myself wondering, wait, has he ever played for Liverpool? And I didn't know the answer, so I did some Googling, and I now have a quiz for you, Daryl Grove. And this quiz is called Jermaine Defoe or Robbie Keane. Wow. I'm going to give you a club. You have to tell me if it was Defoe's club, Keane's club, neither, or both.
Wow.
So we will start with Leeds United.
Keane only.
That is correct.
Yep.
What about West Ham?
Definitely Defoe. I feel like Keane has been there at some point. I'm going to say both.
You are correct.
Yes.
9 appearances on loan.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Portsmouth.
Only Jermaine Defoe.
That is correct. Charlton.
Defoe was loaned there in his early days.
Charlton Academy. Well done, Daryl. I'll give you that one.
And Robbie Keane wasn't? All right.
Yep. And Watford.
Ooh. I want to say neither.
That is correct.
Yes.
Your final one. You can go 100%.
What do I win? Oh, there's still one more question.
Tottenham.
Both.
There you go. You got it. Just trying to throw you off, yeah.
I was convinced that was a trick question.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going for. Because I would overthink that. You went 100%. Good job.
All right.
You are officially
I'll get my Christmas present.
You are a champion of the Defoe Keane game.
World champion, I guess, so far. Does this mean I'll get my Christmas presents on time?
No.
I'll be first on your delivery route.
There will be no gifts for you. You get coal. So should we move on? What other games do you want to talk about from this weekend?
Well, we just mentioned Arsenal. How about a thumbs up to Mesut Ozil for showing us all how to deal with the in-laws for the holidays?
What, back off but then attack?
Well, at least the back off part. Because when that ball comes in, and then Alexis Sanchez gets the shot away, right?
Yep.
And it all kind of turns into a big scramble, and everybody charges in towards that ball that's popped up in the air. Mesut Ozil is the only one that's like, I am not getting involved in this. It would be much smarter to keep quiet and back away. Mm-hmm. And then the ball gets headed out to him where he can smash home a volley and win the day. So that's how I'm treating the holidays.
So this weekend was all about like quiet distraction, because Ilkay Gundogan does like the kind of like, don't draw attention to yourself, you'll get the headed goal. And then Mesut Ozil, don't draw attention to yourself, just back out of it.
Yep.
You'll find a way to make things matter.
But it's very smart, because he knows that either one of my teammates will sort of win the header and score, or I think it's Lejeune is the name of the centre-back. Like if someone wins the header and heads it out, then I'm the only one here. So it's going to come to me for a shot. And isn't he still going backwards as he hits it on the volley?
He is indeed.
That is incredible technique.
And it is either one of those possibilities. I would say a sprinkling of also anticipating that Newcastle's defense is a little bit disorganized, because that seemed to be the case. So I gave thumbs down to Newcastle's back line specifically for this sequence, because it's poor communication. It's not just DeAndre Yedlin, but it's a lot of players assuming other people are marking somebody, which leads to a lot of double teams and a lot of people not marking anybody.
Yeah.
And then it's poor communication. It's not like knowing exactly when to challenge for the ball.
This is Lascelles and Yedlin, right? As that ball comes across from Iwobi, like I think they kind of let Ozil and Sanchez go loose because neither of them has stepped, because neither of them is sure which one.
Yeah, they just keep doing that like kind of narrow back off, and I think they're trying to keep it contained and condensed. But in the end, you then basically back up to your own 6-yard box and you leave Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez wide open at the penalty spot.
Do we give any thumbs down for the way Yedlin blocked that Alexis Sanchez shot?
I mean, It's tough because on the one hand, like
that's a leading question.
He's the first to react. Yeah, a little bit. He's the first to react, and so he makes a play on that. And if he doesn't do that,
but how does he react, Taylor?
He jumps and turns his back. And we know in the past that can lead specifically for DeAndre Yedlin to handballs when you don't want to concede a handball.
But even if you're not going to hit it with your arm, which obviously you don't want to do, turning your back on the shot is not great either. Because I know your back can be big and it's a big shield, but you don't know where that's going afterwards, and you're facing the wrong way after it happens.
And there is always
face with your front.
There's always the humiliating possibility of getting cut. And so then, like, you've jumped and you've turned your back, and then the player dribbles by you, and now you're like, you can see them. It's almost like when you're in the backseat of the station wagon facing out, but now you've turned your back and jumped, and then, like, if Sanchez dribbles by him, it's like, oh no, there's nothing I can do about this.
I only want good things for DeAndre Yedlin, and this wasn't that.
Well, talk to Rafa Benitez, because they are now in the relegation zone.
And just in case we didn't say it, that game finished Arsenal 1, Newcastle 0.
It sure did. Good job, Mesut Ozil. Good job to us so far for our weekend thumbs up, thumbs down review. Lots more to come, but first, should we get to today's sponsor?
Today's show is sponsored by SeatGeek. Buying tickets to sports and concerts can, emphasis on the can, be complicated and confusing, but it doesn't have to be because you can use SeatGeek. It's the smartest way to buy tickets. If you have the SeatGeek app on your phone, you can scroll through, tap away, 2 taps, and you can buy a ticket.
Yes, and what these ads have taught me is that I need to diversify the things I listen to on my walk with my dogs, because it tends to be podcasts or comedy, occasional music. But
those are all events you can go to live.
This is true, but then whenever we do this segment, I look up some stuff and like they're not touring yet, or they've just finished a tour, and then I kind of run out of ideas. So what I've done is try to expand my horizons a little bit, and I've gone this week for Boulevards. Boulevards, if you have not heard of him...
Is this what you showed me before we started recording?
It is indeed, and you seemed very curious.
So his name is Boulevards?
I mean, that's his performing name, yes.
Okay, he looks like he's from the 80s. But instead of baggy clothes...
he's from Raleigh, North Carolina.
But instead of 80s clothes, he's got like skinny clothes, right? So his style I would call 80s skinny. Yeah, and his music doesn't sound very 21st century either.
It does not.
I'm not saying this is criticism. I'm kind of intrigued.
He lists his primary influences as Prince, Rick James, and Earth, Wind, and Fire.
All right.
So there you go. And I would say he's like equivalent of like... He's not the equivalent of Prince, but his sound approximates Prince in that it's got a little bit of funk, a little bit of soul, a little bit of disco, a little bit of pop. It's all good stuff.
So you found him via the SeatGeek app. Where's he playing?
He is currently in North Carolina because that's where he's from. But I think he's
playing at home.
Yes, he has a new album coming up, so I'm sure he will be doing a larger tour very soon.
This is funny. Yes. Most musicians only get one game at home, and the rest of the time they're away.
Yeah,
they're like an expansion team that hasn't got their stadium built yet.
Oh, see, I thought you were taking it literally, as in like, he's playing in his living room.
No,
just stop by and see, selling tickets. Yeah.
I was doing a soccer parallel.
It is always interesting when you go to concerts when they're like really struggling to find a connection, because sometimes you'll get like, oh, my son was born here, and then sometimes it's like, I had a really nice iced tea when I came through here once.
I was here this time last year.
Yeah, exactly. And I hated it, but I'm here again because my booking agent said I have to.
So if you would like to go to a concert where, if you saw Boulevards, for example, he would not be hating it. He'd be very happy to see you there. Yeah. You can get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Here's what you do. Download the SeatGeek app, click the settings tab, enter the promo code TSS. That's TSS. You'll get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's episode.
Indeed. And now I want to take us to the most logical of destinations. It's Stoke v West Ham, a game that I cannot believe I have as many notes for as I do, but it was incredibly captivating. Stoke 0, West Ham 3.
This was a homecoming of sorts.
Yes, it was. Well, first of all, I want to say thumbs up to West Ham for, speaking of that, giving us the possibility of a full circuit Tony Pulis, because it does seem like maybe Mark Hughes, the Stoke manager, is maybe on his way out.
Because they lost 3-0 to West Ham.
And I was looking at they looked wide open at time. They gave like West Ham's creative players way too much time and space on the ball. They looked disorganized, and like they were unable to keep a back line. And I was like, well, who's the guy who's available who can keep a really organized defense and kind of come in and immediately get them playing like very kind of basic, we're not going to concede any goals, then we'll work on the attack. And I was like, oh, it's Tony. Oh, he's been there. So I do feel like there's a chance that Tony Pulis just kind of does the full circuit, and then that becomes his life, is just slowly going back and forth.
He could go around rescuing teams from relegation.
I mean, he kind of already does that.
Like a very boring superhero.
Well, I mean, I think, again, see, this is where it depends on who it is, because I feel like if we were talking about Sam Allardyce, you'd be like, well, he is a superhero.
Oh, yeah, that'd be more interesting.
Okay, much more interesting. Yeah, but I mean, they definitely looked like they are maybe not loving the Mark Hughes era at the moment at Stoke. I would say Mark Hughes is also not loving the Mark Hughes era at Stoke for two reasons. One, he I think was really looking for things to focus on because he was so upset by this game, so he went with Marko Arnautovic. I would say maybe Arnautovic not the guilty party there, but afterwards, as Arnautovic was being subbed off, he called him, I will not go that route because, we don't want the explicit tag. He called him an effing ungrateful effer, is what he screamed at Marko Arnautovic. Afterwards, in his post-match interview, he said, when asked about being in a relegation battle, we've got to recognize that we're in a relegation battle and do something about it, and that's what we'll do. Gotta love the specificity of Mark Hughes' plans.
Can't argue with it, though.
No, but it's just more so that he said we didn't know we were in this situation. I don't know how he didn't have that realization of things are not good. So we should go back to basics.
Are they fourth bottom? I'm pretty sure they are. Because I remember hearing that if West Brom beat Man United, then they would overtake Stoke and Stoke would be in the bottom three. That didn't happen, so they're just above it.
Yeah.
But, it's only December.
Also not where you expect a club like Stoke who are spending the money like Stoke are to be.
Oh, man, Xherdan Shaqiri would be moving on fast if they went down to the Championship, right? He is not Buffon with Juventus going down with them.
No, he is not.
Can I say, this is kind of harsh, but thumbs down to the Stoke fans who booed Marko Arnautovic
I think that's fair.
All the way through this game. Because I believe Arnautovic wasn't doing well for West Ham.
No.
But it seemed like the reception he got at the Britannia motivated him to at least score. Yeah, and he just kept going at it until I think he scored West Ham's second goal. So he was the one that killed the game.
Yeah, I mean,
powered by booze.
And I think he scored his first goal for West Ham.
Not as
I know what you meant. He scored his first goal for West Ham last week, so he's kind of coming to form a little bit.
Oh, of course, it was a really good goal. Yeah,
but I think you're absolutely right that he missed one that wasn't that ridiculous of a chance, and everybody booed him. And from there, it was sort of they really
whoever
kept going on him.
Played that through ball for that one he missed, the one he hit the side netting, right? It was a brilliant pass. I can't remember who it was.
But then he had one where he was he really should have scored. I think he was one-on-one with the goalkeeper. He missed that one, and so it really did seem like either this is going to be a hilarious moment if you're a Stoke fan when Stoke score a goal and suddenly it's really on Marko Arnautovic, or, as exactly what happened, he scored a goal and then didn't really celebrate as much as he probably was justified. He just did the knee slide in front of the Stoke fans. He didn't pull the full Adebayor.
Yeah.
But he did, and this is the thing that seems to have annoyed Mark Hughes, is after he had the miss that hit the crossbar, where he probably should have scored, he threw his hands up above his head in an X, which is supposed to be the hammers that they have on their badge, and then he tapped the West Ham badge.
Oh, I thought you meant he loved X-Men.
I mean, that might be it, too. He's a big fan of Professor X. Didn't love Days of Future Past. Or didn't love Age of Apocalypse.
Correct.
Yeah.
My guess is the X above his head is matches the hammers.
Yes.
The two hammers that are crossing each other on the West Ham.
The commentator said the two
crest.
irons, which
the two irons. Okay, that could be true as well. Yeah, and then tapping the badge is obviously
it's Jeremy Irons and his brother. Essentially, So it was. But even then, the way it kind of was made to look, because they didn't show it when he had that miss. They showed it actually after he scored the goal. So it looked like that was how he celebrated. But in reality, it was sort of fine, you guys want to boo me? That's why I play for a different club. I don't care.
For 26 minutes.
And so again, it wasn't nearly as insulting as it probably could have been given the amount of stick he got in that game.
Can I say then, I'll move us on to Chelsea 1, Southampton 0.
Yeah.
And say thumbs up to Marcus Alonso for going around the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen this goal?
I have, and I've seen the full analysis of it.
Okay, I haven't, but I've got my own analysis.
Give it to me.
So it's either thumbs up for Marcus Alonso for doing something kind of almost impossible, or it's thumbs down to either Fraser Forster for setting his wall incorrectly and leaving space at the near post. So I didn't describe what happened. Marcus Alonso lines up for this free kick. There's a wall in front of him. And instead, most people go up and over the wall or try and bend it up and around the wall.
Yep.
He goes literally pretty low, right? Maybe waist height, around the wall and inside the near post. That should not be allowed to happen. I'm guessing you watched Match of the Day and they blame Fraser Forster. I think there's some blame to be laid on Manolo Gabbiadini. He's the guy who was sort of at the far edge of the wall, and he kind of does the Yedlin thing and jumps and turns and therefore makes himself thinner as the ball comes through. If he'd stood still, he'd be wider. It might have hit him.
Well, first of all, I think Fraser Forster doesn't set the wall up properly because you can see him in the replay. He basically goes over and does without really doing the gesture, does the equivalent of okay, that's fine. It's really, and it's because it's the final few seconds of the first half. I think they're in
Larry David.
They're in. It's okay. It's okay. Then he goes back, and then you see him. He looks at both posts, so it's as though he still doesn't quite know where he is. And at the moment the ball is struck, he is standing, but with hands on knees. As in he's just completely not ready for it at all. The implication I got from it was that he was sort of like, okay, like it's almost halftime. This isn't going to go in. We're fine. And then Alonso bends it into the near corner perfectly.
Okay, so even if Foster got it wrong, and even if maybe Gabbiadini should have like stood strong instead of like jumping and turning,
it still goes to Alonso for the awareness.
It's still Alonso has to. He's still got the tiniest of gaps to bend around, because once you start bending it around the wall, the danger is you go wide, right?
Yep.
Then you got to bend it back, and then inside a post, but not too close for the keeper. It's really a very narrow passageway you've got to get that ball through.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean it's well done, and that's kind of become the hallmark of Marcus Alonso in the past couple games.
Right.
It reminds me of when everybody made fun of, I think it was Louis van Gaal, when Luke Shaw got injured, and he was like, "That's why we can't score goals, is because Luke Shaw is injured, and like your left back is your main attacker." Seems like that's kind of what Chelsea are going for. They had some other opportunities, but Marcus Alonso, routinely very dangerous. I'm very much enjoying watching him with those marauding runs.
You got any more thumbs?
I do. I've got some thumbs up to Roy Hodgson for proving that young upstart English managers definitely deserve a place in the Premier League, because he is one, I've decided. Based on the age of the other English Premier League managers, I feel like he's doing just fine. But 7 games unbeaten, which is Crystal Palace's longest run in the Premier League, and they are out of the relegation zone and looking very confident. The way they, like, a lot of the interplay, it was a lot of Wilfried Zaha, but it wasn't just Wilfried Zaha in this game. Other players did other things that allowed them to win so handily.
Do you think there's an element of like Defoe did some very good foundation work in terms of like passing and moving and possessing the ball, but it was just not working defensively? Then Hodgson can come in and sort of do some more basic stuff, but they've still been working on moving the ball a lot, and so suddenly, you know, you've got like the benefit of the previous coach. Because you got to I always think about this is it's not just like we switch to a new manager and now we play their style. You've learned things or learned habits from the previous people you've worked with, right? Like, each player is the sum total of every coach they've ever worked with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely true, and there's probably some element of truth there that they've like learned how to play quickly and pass the ball and move and be a little bit more fluid in attack. I don't know if that fluidity in attack has ever been the hallmark of Roy Hodgson, but it does seem like
some leftover Defoe.
Yeah, sure.
Did you see? So Benteke scores, right? Which is big after he missed that penalty last week. What was his celebration about? He kind of put his fingers in his ears, which I assume is I can't hear the criticism.
Yeah, basically,
is that
he's been getting a lot of criticism for his failure to score as consistently as maybe Palace fans would like.
Man, thumbs up for the very good physical gesture, the very good communication, right? Because I kind of knew what he was talking about straight away without being a Palace fan or being particularly interested in that whole thing, right?
It's once again, though, with him scoring goals, Lukaku scoring goals, Kevin De Bruyne doing things, Eden Hazard doing things, just sort of like Belgium, pretty good.
Yeah, England-Belgium's going to be a great game because it's going to have that nice narrative of all those players playing in England and hopefully England on a roll at that point.
I was going to say, it's a bold statement, but I also want to say, going back to this game for a moment, thumbs up mostly to referee Martin Atkinson.
Yes, I've got the same.
I'd say he maybe got one wrong when it should have been a penalty for Crystal Palace, but they won 3-0, so it's fine. But I'd say he correctly disallowed Iborra's goal, which was definitely a shove in the back, but it was very craftily done by him.
I didn't see that.
He shoves the defender out of the way and then heads the ball off of a corner. I think it was off a corner. And the referee did really well to spot that. But I would say,
I did see that. Okay,
especially for Wilfried Ndidi, his second yellow card for that dive. Number one, to give the yellow card that means the red card for a dive. But number two, just to spot that dive, because I really did think it was going to be a penalty.
I had to watch it, I think, 5 times to be sure that it was the right call, because indeed he's on a bit of a dribble, right? And I think he got a nudge earlier on, so there was a little bit of contact previous. But then as he goes by Scott Dan, he kind of just like trips over his own feet as he's right next to Scott Dan, and it suggests that Dan has done something. And so well done to Martin Atkinson for spotting that. And I would say for the, like you said, knowing that that's going to be a second yellow for the simulation yellow is going to be the second yellow, which means indeed he's going to be sent off. So it becomes a big deal, right? Yeah. Well done for spotting it and following through.
And I would say especially so because there is contact between who is the defender? I'm sorry,
Scott Dan.
There is contact between Dan and Ndidi. But if you watch it really slowly, Ndidi has already started going down, and then there's knee to thigh contact. But if you were watching, like, if you just weren't quite sure, you would think, oh, he hit him in the leg, he knocked him over, it's got to be a penalty. But in reality, Ndidi's already kind of tried to sell that and try to leave the foot out. You can see him kind of like almost dangle it like a fish hook, and nobody takes, and then he goes down.
I'll say this for Ndidi, it's actually a pretty good fake.
Oh,
right?
yeah?
If it was a forgery, like, you'd be expecting to get through passport control.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, maybe.
I thought it was pretty convincing.
Yeah, I mean, I just mean more so getting through passport control.
I've seen Arjen Robben ones where it's like, oh, no, sir.
Yeah, well, there were plenty of those this weekend, too. But yeah, so I just think Martin Atkinson did very well to spot those two infractions, and I think was correct, even if Leicester fans will not be pleased.
Anything else from the Premier League?
Yes, I'm going to say thumbs up to the ball for not lying in Burnley's 0-0 draw with Brighton. Tarkowski whistled for the foul on Murray. Did not.
Burnley defender, right?
Yeah, did not foul him. Murray then steps up, skies the penalty. But then I will say later on, thumbs down to Tarkowski for making me feel less enthusiastic about that, because he absolutely throws an elbow into Murray. So it was like really as a clearly a retaliatory gesture, and I bet he's going to get a ban. But still made a 0-0 draw fairly interesting. And then on that note,
go ahead. I was going to say, I'll quickly say a thumbs up to Huddersfield for a 4-1 win over Watford. I didn't pay much attention to it because I saw that Danny Williams didn't get any goals or assists, and I think didn't start. He came off the bench later on.
He had one very good pass that split like three players. With a shot that was then saved. Okay. So, no luck there, but still.
Actually, so we hadn't planned to talk about this. Do you remember? Did we talk about the Danny Williams article
Not
from
yet, no.
maybe last week? Do you mind if we touch on that a second? Uh-huh. So he essentially said that he was really confused about why he wasn't called up over the past couple of years, and that Bruce Arena essentially said to him, like, I'm sure you're good, or you're on my radar, but I haven't been watching you.
Yeah.
And that was the reason to not call him up.
Yeah. And then did that article include, or was that
the MLS
coinciding with? Yeah,
he also said later on when he met up with the because he captained that team against Portugal, right? Which I kind of forgot because I was so excited about McKennie and Adams and all that.
I think we just assumed it was going to be Yedlin as well.
No, I assumed it would be Bedoya, but then he
that's right. No, you're right. We assumed it would be Bedoya.
But right. Williams said that some of the chat in the camp was that essentially some of the players felt that Bruce Arena was trying to sort of promote Major League Soccer by calling up Major League Soccer players.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a huge accusation, right?
It is, and then last week Johan Cruyff also said something relatively similar?
This is just something from Cruyff's autobiography.
Okay,
this thing has been published for a while. It's essentially that Klinsmann...
Why did it get so much attention last week then?
I think because of the Williams thing kind of recalled it. But he had said in his autobiography that it's tough for Klinsmann at the US national team because you have to pick a player from every MLS team to satisfy people.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's true, and I'm not sure the Bruce Arena thing is true either. But it's more just like Arena has a preference for Major League Soccer players, as opposed to he's like, all right, I'm going to promote Major League Soccer while we're doing this.
Yeah.
While we breeze through qualifying for the World Cup.
But I would still say, if nothing else, not that we didn't already know that we were frustrated with Bruce Arena, but if anything, it furthers that frustration because going back to the conversation we had about Pep Guardiola and his staff and Ederson, where they've gone out and clearly identified this goalkeeper who can do exactly what they want, and maybe it's not a thing that everybody knows about, and we've identified it and we're going to utilize it. That is a club team doing that. You're the national team manager. You don't have that much to do.
You have time off between games.
So to say, you haven't watched much of you is just absurd. It is absurd to me that was a thing that he said.
Also, the internet.
Oh, gosh.
Right? You could easily watch some footage. All right, maybe we shouldn't go down this path right now.
No, but it's just, it's just inexcusable to me that, the U.S. national team, again, the weird thing is, if you don't want to call Danny Williams, I don't necessarily know if I would agree. I thought he maybe should have gotten a call-up in September. I think that was one of my predictions. But you can justify that. But you can justify it as, look, I've got these guys, this fits better, but you're still in the plans. But to say, oh, yeah, I haven't seen you, it's just he was integral in a team that almost got promoted last season, so much so that the team that did get promoted signed him, and now he's...
You could watch the playoff final.
It's just ridiculous. It's very upsetting, and I dislike Bruce Arena all the more. So thanks, Daryl.
Sorry, my blood pressure's going up as well.
All right, then I'll take us to a thing that you actually helped calm me down with, which was West Brom 1, Manchester United 2.
Why did you need calming down?
Because
the team you support won.
Because there was an incident with Gareth Barry stepping on David De Gea.
Yes.
And the announcers afterwards focused on Ahmed Higazi, which at the time I was like, how are you guys not noticing this? Until I noticed that Higazi definitely kicks David De Gea once he's already holding the ball while Gareth Barry is stepping on his foot. And while this annoys me, I was aware that I have a little bit of a bias there, so I asked you what you thought, and I think your ruling was probably yellow cards, as they're both pretty rough, but also it's interesting why they're doing that.
Yes.
And it did not, I just assumed it was we're mad, and so we did it, but the reality is it's very crafty work from those two players.
So I would say, one, Higazi is trying to kick the ball out of David De Gea's hands. He's not necessarily just trying to kick him out of violence, right?
He's a perfect, unique snowflake angel, and how dare you kick him?
Gareth Barry, I think, when you see it from one angle, it looks like he's just raking his cleats down De Gea's leg and then trying to maybe hurt his ankle or something. Yeah. But what I think he's doing, and what I'm pretty sure he's doing, is just stepping down on De Gea's foot in kind of a scrum to pin De Gea to the floor so that if anything happens, De Gea can't do what he did to Arsenal and make a bunch of saves.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's the Gareth Barry being a very, like, he's definitely the most experienced player in the Premier League in terms of Premier League games played, trying every trick in the book. He's seen De Gea, he thinks, I know how to stop you, I'm going to nail you to the floor.
Yes. So I'm still frustrated by that because, again,
it didn't result in a goal, right?
David
It was just kind of a...
is a beautiful animal, and how dare you? But also, I think it's always interesting that when you remove the emotion from it, it is interesting to see, like, oh no, that's like a deliberate tactic that teams utilize in a scrum to see what they can get away with.
Well, I will say the only reason I knew this is because somebody did this to me once.
Yeah, you told me that.
Andrew Morgan of the West Midlands, if you're listening, you did this to me in a five-a-side game and you know it.
I feel like he sounds like a robber baron, and I think that's because there's a couple combined in there. Any other thumbs up, thumbs down, if not from the Premier League, then from other leagues around the world?
Well, thumbs up to Lukaku for scoring.
Oh,
right?
yeah?
Yeah.
Yep.
Again, get all the goals out of the way now. Don't save it for the summer.
Yeah.
Nothing else from the Premier League, but how about one from the Championship?
Sure.
Thumbs up to Ruben Neves for going soft and low.
Ruben Neves.
Have you seen this goal?
I've not.
Okay.
I saw the result. I went and checked because I'm always trying to figure out what Wolves are doing.
It was a very Taylor Rockwell goal. I'll say this. So Neves is at the top of the box, right?
What, mishitting it and then pretending like he meant to?
No. The free kick comes in. It's headed out by Sheffield Wednesday. And Neves, instead of like trying to hit it as hard as he can, kind of gently, from like 20-something yards, because he's right outside the box, places it into the corner.
That's what you think I'm capable
Well,
of?
no, but I've seen you shoot, like, they're like firm passes into the side netting, as opposed to, I'm going to hit this thing as hard as I can.
Well, I
You know what
appreciate that.
I mean, Neves is better than anything you've ever done.
I mean, yeah. I would assume so.
But it's very, very good.
I mean, I've done some okay
I would
stuff.
encourage people to. I'm actually surprised you haven't seen it because I feel like it was on Reddit Soccer for a while, and I thought you might be like, oh, my friend supports that team.
I was busy
Maybe
watching
I'll click that and have a look.
I was busy watching the Ricardo Quaresma first touch over and over and over and over and over again.
Thank you for sending me
that.
that.
I think it's insane.
Okay, that redeems you. You totally redeemed yourself.
I appreciate that. I did check, and I want to know...
Even though you drove a sixth of the way across the country in the wrong direction.
I love that movie. And I'm very happy about the fact that I have never seen either the prequel nor the sequel, and I plan to keep it that way. I did want to say, though, I need the Championship to start cooperating because Wolverhampton keep winning, and somehow you all are still only 4 points ahead.
I keep having that same experience because I keep thinking...
I assume you guys were 8 points ahead right now.
11 points ahead, and Wolves keep winning, so therefore there's probably a similar gap. Nope. We haven't won 16 in a row.
You've not, but it's one of those...
And it's a long season, right? It's easy to be like, oh, remember when Wolves were top and they're the 7th?
One game away from halfway through the Championship, I believe, because I think you've played 22.
Yeah, that's right. 46 games.
Yep. And then I will say, though, it's a weird thing with the Championship table where, like, I think you guys are on, like, 48, and the next team is on 44, and it's because every place is just far enough behind that it seems like you're not actually... far away from anybody. But then in reality, I think the 5th place team is 17 points behind you. So there's that.
Is that Villa? I thought Villa might be in 5th place.
I think they're in there. And Sheffield are holding on to 6th place. I'll check that one too.
Speaking of Villa, I didn't do this deliberately. A sympathetic thumbs down to Carlos Hill.
Okay.
Plays for Deportivo La Coruña on loan from Aston Villa.
Oof.
He was the victim of the great panapocalypse of 2017. Have you seen this?
Is this when Barcelona destroyed them?
Yep.
Yes.
So you know pana is a nutmeg, right? So Messi nutmegs Hill.
Oof.
Hill turns around to chase the ball.
Oh, no.
And Jordi Alba nutmegs it back through his legs back in the other direction.
Okay.
He's nutmegged twice in about 2.5 seconds.
The only way that's worse, and since you have given me credit for scoring a nice goal, I will say this has been done to me. Saul, I do not like you, for the double meg from the same player.
Naming our nemesis.
I mean, yeah, he really did, though. He megged me, and I was like, oh, you got lucky. Let's do that again. And then he stood me right up and did it right again. And it was brutal.
What else we got, Taylor? What else we got?
I will move us to the continent then. Okay. I know we've got a lot to talk about in Germany.
I think I moved us to the continent with Spain.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But I'm going to say thumbs down to the entire AC Milan squad because this week is not going to be pleasant for them.
Who did they lose to?
Hellas Verona, 19th in the table. More on that on the scouting reports. But Rino Gattuso has taken charge. I think after their 1-1 draw with Benevento, who are bottom of the table, he said like it would have been better to get stabbed this week. We're really going to focus. Like he never smiles. He doesn't like players wearing funny hats or anything. It's a whole exactly what you'd expect.
Trying to do a Guardiola thing.
Yes, except he is the intimidating little man that he is, and so I imagine he's going to be just as angry as ever with this result.
I'm going to say all the thumbs down to Antoine Griezmann.
Correct.
And he knows why, and maybe we'll leave it at that.
I just have for being very, very stupid.
Yep.
Yes.
Idiot. Okay, so thumbs up to Stu Holden. Stu Holden sort of organised the kick-in for Houston game. It ended up being Stu Holden's team versus Steve Nash's team. There was Clint Dempsey, Mia Hamm, Landon Donovan. It finished 12-12, as all good charity games do.
That's how it has to be.
There was a Dempsey overhead kick.
That doesn't surprise me.
And at time of recording, or the time we started recording, they'd raised $300,000 for Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund.
That's amazing.
That's not bad, right? And obviously they're still taking donations if you want to chip in. It is kickinforhouston.com. Go there, make a donation towards the Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund. But well done for Stu Holden for putting this together.
Yeah.
I've organised a pickup game. It doesn't always go well. To organise something of this magnitude with this many big-name players is very, very impressive.
Well, you should try being as charming as Stu Holden. Maybe you'd be able to do it.
I'm not sure I can do that.
Probably not. But good on Stu Holden for doing that for a worthy cause. Good on Hearts. I'm taking this to Scotland, Darryl.
Hearts of Midlothian?
For beating Celtic 4-0. To keep the title race sort of alive, kind of, theoretically. The win means that Celtic finally dropped points. It means that they're now only, I think, 2 points ahead of Aberdeen, who are in second place, but that's with a game in hand.
Okay.
So, grain of salt there. But I also want to say, with that in mind, thumbs up to Celtic for, 69 games unbeaten. I'm going to assume that's in domestic competitions, both league and cup. Might just be league.
PSG definitely beat them recently.
Yes. Yes, but still a pretty incredible accomplishment, so well done there. And finally, thumbs down to Perry Kitchen for making me Google on the off chance that he was still playing for Hearts.
He wasn't?
He is not.
Oh,
Randers,
no.
which I completely forgot about.
So at least he's playing somewhere.
I think so, except they might be out of season, so
yes, they
not
are.
so much.
At least he would be playing somewhere if they were in season.
Maybe we see him in January camp. We shall see.
Okay, thumbs down to the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle royal wedding being scheduled for the same day as the FA Cup final. Because here's the truth, Taylor. It's an outdated, expensive institution that's a drain on public funds and no one takes seriously anymore. And I'm not the biggest fan of the monarchy either.
I knew you were doing that.
Was that telegraphed too hard?
A little bit.
But so actually, there is a story going around this. It is scheduled for the same day, and Prince William is supposed to present the trophy and we assume be best man at his brother's wedding. The FA Cup final's at 5:30, so there's the whole morning to do the royal wedding. Genuinely, and it's all in London, so...
And those things are just quick and easy affairs. They don't take up the entire city and processions and parades.
You're in and out, it's no problem. But I do think, honestly, they haven't scheduled it overlapping so that you have to choose one or the other.
So...
Maybe they could do it at half-time.
My question is, if you
half-time entertainment.
Yeah, I think that works. But my
just hurry them on there real fast and do it and then get them off. And
if that ever happens, the monarchy's in trouble. But I do want to say, if you went back 200 years, the firstborn son of the English monarchy, maybe more than 200 years, but the firstborn son would be the one that would get all the attention for the wedding, and the second one, I would assume, would just be sort of it's fine. And so I do like the idea of them being you're a halftime spectacle now. That seems unlikely, though.
Anything? Oh, there's the big thumbs.
Yeah, I was going to say.
In Germany.
I'm just waiting for you to take us there.
We should get to. Okay, so thumbs up to Christian Pulisic and the way it's going for him under Peter Stöger at Borussia Dortmund.
Decent.
I think everyone knows by now, but Pulisic scored the 89th minute winner for Dortmund against Hoffenheim. First of all, he got the start because Stöger picked the exact same team, the exact same formation, 4-3-3/4141 when defending, the exact same sort of more sensible approach from Dortmund.
Indeed.
All very good. And that great 89th minute winner from Pulisic.
I mean, that makes it all the better because sometimes you hear game-winning goal and that's when it finished 2-1 and the game-winning goal came in the 33rd minute. Always more dramatic when it's the 89th.
This was the real thing.
And certainly dramatic the way it happens. So it's basically Pulisic starts out out wide. Yeah. Actually makes a very smart run in behind.
Sneaky.
You pointed out copying his mark from the first half, correct?
Yeah, so he actually, I'm going to go half a thumbs down, but really thumbs up for Pulisic. So in the first half, he's playing on the left, and they concede the goal to Hoffenheim, right? So Hoffenheim are leading from the first half. It's because there is, I can't remember his name, there's a wing back, Kado Rabek, I think his name is, sneaks around Pulisic and Schmelzer, the left mid and the left back, to be there to put the ball across for Uth, I believe, to put Hoffenheim ahead. So he was kind of at fault for the first goal, but he more than makes up for it by scoring the winner.
He does. So basically, he gets just around the outside fullback, so he's in behind. Kagawa spots that ball, plays the pass in. It takes at least one deflection, maybe two on the way through.
I'm going to say one. Yeah, it's definitely a deflection from, I've forgotten the defender's name, but he kind of gets a touch to it and it redirects it and bounces it up in the air, right?
Yep.
So, but Pulisic still gets there before the goalkeeper.
Sure does.
But what Pulisic does is, instead of just trying to smash it at close range from the goalkeeper, I don't really know how to describe it, he kind of chops it in midair. I almost think of it as like a table tennis type shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just cut under it. Yeah. Chops it, lifts it up in the air, then gets a left foot volley to it to score the winner.
Yeah, and that chop was with the right foot. So it's right foot over the goalkeeper, left foot in. And I think the thing that made me really happy is that he probably could have left it for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who was also streaking in there, and I think probably would have finished it with his right foot, just smashed it in for the volley. But Pulisic definitely wants this one, has done all the work. He finishes it and then knocks over Aubameyang because they end up colliding after Pulisic has hit the ball. Pulisic stays on his feet. That's all I'm saying. Most powerful man in the world.
And just to be clear, there's no sort of ill feeling, right?
No.
As Pulisic collides into Aubameyang, I think Aubameyang knows that Pulisic has, one, beat the keeper, Baumann, I have in my notes, and then scored the winner. And you see Aubameyang basically grinning and laughing as he gets knocked to the floor because he's so happy that Dortmund have won and he's happy that sort of Pulisic has scored. Because I think the stat was that Pulisic had not been involved in a goal in terms of a goal or an assist for 10 games.
Yeah.
It was actually a rubbish stat in it because we know that he won the free kick that they then scored from last week.
That one in possession. Not necessarily that useful. My question for you, though, is when he scores, he does the knee slide. How did you feel about that?
I was so happy watching the goal, I didn't even notice that.
Because you do not like the knee slide, correct?
We don't need him for the World Cup now, so I guess it's okay.
Wow.
But I always think... I actually don't mean that. I always think the knee slide is kind of dangerous. You can mess up your knees.
I think that does happen once a season. A player does that and either does it wrong or does it into a sprinkler or does it on turf and ends up blowing out their knee.
Yeah,
so
don't do it, Chris.
Just one little fist bump. That's all you need.
You know what was great though is after he scored, you can hear I watched it on Fox Soccer Match Pass, which you get a lot of crowd noise on there. You can hear the thing they do at Dortmund where the announcer says the player's first name who just scored, and the crowd says his second name. So there's a lot of Christian Pulisic.
Yeah,
it's a really great moment.
Do they do Pierre-Emerick? I guess they have to. That's the hyphen, right? That works. So Pulisic did big things.
Yes.
Weston McKennie was around while Schalke did things.
Well, he wasn't around while they were losing.
This is
Put
true.
it that way. They went 2-0 down. Did poor old Schalke to Frankfurt, right? McKennie comes on in the 80th minute when they're 2-0 down. Schalke immediately score.
Yep, and it's all him.
Immediately score.
100%.
And he's kind of involved, right?
Like 60%.
He doesn't provide an assist or set anything up, but he is 40%. He is at the top of the box, keep putting passes in to keep the pressure up on Frankfurt. Right?
Yeah, I mean, and you get the impression that that's why he's brought in, is basically, obviously Schopf is probably a little bit tired, but, excuse me, I know how I'm supposed to say the O with dots now. It's like Schopf. I'm practicing. It's still terrible. But basically, obviously a little bit of fatigue, but we've also seen McKennie occupy this space time and time again for Schalke. It's that 25 yards from goal, 30 yards from goal. He sort of polices, he collects that rebound ball, he helps redistribute the ball. That's exactly what he does for this goal.
Yeah.
It's basically kind of keeping possession, maintaining possession,
right?
moving it around. Yeah, but I just appreciate that. I do think that it's reminiscent of Pulisic when he first started getting minutes for Dortmund. It remains for Weston McKennie that sort of very simple. You don't need to be overly elaborate. Other people can do the crazy dribbling. Harit is there. We know he likes to do that. You're all about establishing possession, keeping it going, and really directing traffic. And that's the first thing he does when he comes on is he screams at everybody to be more direct and get the ball forward.
He basically says play it long. Right?
Yeah.
And then he's not involved in the equaliser. But Naldo is.
Yes,
good old
he is.
Naldo, the guy who scored the equaliser in the 4-4 game.
You were convinced this was going to be a header.
I was absolutely... Yeah, because I knew about this before I watched it. I was convinced it was going to be a header, just like his other equaliser. It wasn't. It was another great sort of side foot strike, right?
Yeah, and Daryl... you definitely celebrate goals when they matter to you, but you're not a very communicative person when it comes to the commentary. But I felt because you expected it to be a header, you felt slightly bad. And so when the commentator said
I was surprised.
that's a strike that any front man would be proud of, Daryl in the background just echoed yep. like you agree, like you really agreed with that one in a way that you usually do not.
Oh, and how about who was the number 9? Is it DeSanto?
Yeah.
So DeSanto was so excited.
He was like a happy puppy.
He didn't know which direction to run in to celebrate. He went the wrong way.
4 times.
Twice. 4 times.
He just kept going the wrong way. He couldn't. It was basically he kept seeing people running places, and he couldn't really commit to one of them. And then eventually, I think, did.
Oh, so Schalke is one of the most exciting teams around right now in terms of comebacks, right?
That is true, except that even with this result, they're now second, 11 points behind Bayern. So that gap is continuing to increase.
Oh, while we're in the Bundesliga, oh no, there's the revenge game that I think we're going to hear about in the Scouting Network, aren't we? So we don't need to touch on that just yet.
We don't, but we can say thumbs up to Timmy Chandler, who returned in this game. He was a first-half sub.
Didn't he play last week as well? I think he's been back for a couple of weeks.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then at least he came in this one. That's what matters to me. It's nice to see him back at least, because I thought it was going to be a much longer layoff. I thought it was definitely like a ruptured tendon somewhere. So it seems like
he's back.
He's back in there, if not a starter, though.
Timmy is back. Shall we move on to the TSS Scouting
Network?
All right. So if you've never heard before, this is where we get reports on young players from around the world. Up first, Michael Fisk is scouting Andreas Christensen, 21-year-old Danish centre-back for Chelsea. Michael says, due to a congested schedule, Christensen has recently played full matches against Atletico Madrid, West Ham and Huddersfield. BT Sport's Stephen Gerrard, that's weird to say, isn't it?
It is.
Has been impressed, stating, quote, to come in and impress an Italian manager as a defender at 21 years of age and stay in this Chelsea team, you have to give the kid an awful amount of credit, unquote. There's some stereotyping going on there.
There's also a little bit of grammar and syntax issues aside. I'm not sure there's an obvious subject verb there, but whatever. James Jones, scouting Andrew Carlton, 17-year-old American attacker for Atlanta United. James says he thinks Carlton is still in Atlanta's plans despite the acquisition of Darlington Nagby, but those plans will most likely be a full season at USL affiliate Gwinnett.
Which isn't necessarily the name of that team yet, right?
No.
We just know it's in Gwinnett County.
Yeah.
Showing off my Georgian knowledge.
I think our usual approach to this is for me to say Gwinnett, or I usually say Atlanta United 2, and then you say Gwinnett in the USL. I think we end up getting there all the way around.
They might end up being called ATL 2.
That would make sense. So basically this is James's theory. He says, technical director Carlos Bocanegra has said that he sees Nagby as a deep midfield player that can also play on the wings.
So they don't know where to play him.
They like his versatility, but don't want to push Miguel Almiron back in midfield. This means that Atlanta will likely have Villalba, Barco, if he signs, that's a big old if, Gressel, Nagby, and Jacob Peterson if he re-signs as potential wing players ahead of Carlton. So it makes sense that a full season in USL would help him get regular minutes and further his development as opposed to spotty appearances here and there. Half
of me does hope that he's playing for Gwinnett at least when they come and play the kickers.
I'd be right with
so
that.
Go see some Andrew Carlton playing against professionals.
I mean, you could see like 4 amazing youngsters if all of the Atlanta United players end up going there.
It's too early for George Bello, right?
I've decided no.
Matthew Shea is scouting Alessio Romagnoli, the 22-year-old Italian centre-back for Milan. Alessio scored in the 30th minute against Hellas Verona in the Coppa Italia round of 16 match earlier this week, setting up a quarter-final match against Inter on December 27th. So that derby game is coming. It was his 3rd goal of the year in all competitions, but they've played Hellas Verona again, haven't they?
You are correct. More on that in just a moment. But first, from Clay Jenkins, scouting Jadon Sancho, 17-year-old English left-winger for Borussia Dortmund. Sancho
now competing with Pulisic for that spot.
Competing is a word.
Okay.
Sancho has played in 3 UEFA Youth League matches for Dortmund and managed 2 goals in those 3 games against Apoel, Tottenham, and Real Madrid. He also made his U19 debut for England against Bulgaria, scoring the winner in a 1-0 win.
Go on, Jayden. Wills Green is scouting Phil Foden, who I forgot to mention in the thumbs up, thumbs down. 17-year-old English midfielder for Manchester City. Here's what happened. Phil Foden got some minutes in City's romp over Tottenham, coming on in the 83rd minute and slotting into the midfield well. So yeah, he came on for Ilkay Gundogan and played central midfield. How about that? So I want to give a thumbs up to Pep Guardiola for sort of giving Foden more minutes and in a tougher position.
Yeah, I like the approach of we've got to get him minutes, so we'll just put him everywhere. I'm excited for when he starts or comes on as a 90th minute goalkeeper substitution. Todd Brannon scouting Cameron Carter-Vickers, 19-year-old American center back on loan at Sheffield United from Tottenham.
Okay.
CCV returned to the starting lineup in Sheffield's 1-0 loss to Preston North End, but was subbed off in the 69th minute.
Uh-oh.
I'm hoping that was like a tactical, we're chasing a goal, we're going to go to a back 4, who knows. Meanwhile, Mauricio Pochettino shot shot down rumors that CCV could be recalled early from his loan, stating, quote, "The decision with Cameron is more about his development than if we need or don't need more center backs in the squad," end quote. That's in regards to Tottenham's semi-injury crisis, semi-lack of form and consistency when it comes to center backs.
That also means he's not ready, right?
Yeah.
He needs like the seasoning of some tough first-team football down in the Championship.
Yeah,
which I don't think is inaccurate.
No, and I also appreciate that. Like, I do appreciate, even if it's like mostly not true, Pochettino's point that like it's better for him to actually continue to get playing time versus sitting on the bench for us in case maybe we need him in the game.
Fair. Okay. Olaf Danelius is scouting Erdal Rakip, the 21-year-old Swedish midfielder for Malmö. Rakip has received his first call-up for the Swedish national team for their friendlies against Estonia and Denmark in January. It should be noted that these games are outside the FIFA calendar. Oh, so they're doing like a January friendly thing. So only players from the Scandinavian leagues will feature. It's this sounds very familiar. Mm-hmm. It's unlikely that many members of this squad will end up at the World Cup.
Still familiar.
But you never know. Meanwhile, Portuguese outlet A Bola reports that Rakip will not be available for these friendlies since he will sign for Benfica when his contract with Malmö is up in January.
Lots of reporting happening. Brian Gardner.
Wait. He's a midfielder?
Uh-huh.
And he's going to Benfica.
You don't like this?
That's trouble for Keaton Parks, isn't it?
Who's got minutes today or maybe started? I forget. But either way.
There was a rumour that he was going to play for Benfica. Okay, maybe we'll look at see if we get a scouting report in the near future on Keaton Parks.
Brian Gardner is scouting Moise Keane, the 17-year-old Italian forward on loan at Hellas Verona from Juventus. Keane was brought on by Fabio Peccia, I think, in the 32nd minute after an injury to Alessio Cerci in Hellas Verona's 3-0 victory at home to AC Milan. Keane scored Verona's second goal in the 55th minute with a left-footed strike in front of goal, which bested Gianluigi Donnarumma, giving the youngster his second goal of the year. The win is Verona's third this season and temporarily took them out of the relegation zone. I believe they are right back in there.
Wasn't Donnarumma being comforted after the game because some Milan fans were like being very, very mean to him?
Yeah, I think there's more issues with his agent and maybe a possible move and some one-away situations. Oof. It's not great. I've also seen it reported that Pepe Reina might be getting those moves.
You said want away.
Mm-hmm. Just for you.
Michael Willis is scouting...
More on popular turns of phrases in just a few moments.
Scouting Julian Brandt, the 21-year-old German attacker for Bayer Leverkusen. Thank you, Michael. After a fairly quiet last couple of games, Julian found his attacking form this weekend at Hanover, where defence was at a premium. He scored the first of the game's 5 first-half goals in the 11th minute, then had the MLS assist, I don't know if you get those in the Bundesliga, for Leon Bailey's goal just after the half, a goal in which Kai Havertz had the primary assist for some TSS Scouting Network synergy trademark.
I'm concerned that Michael has trademarked that, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Is this the game that finished 4-4?
You are correct.
Yeah, all right.
Alec Brew scouting Davy Selke, the 22-year-old German striker for Hertha Berlin. After vowing to celebrate against his former side RB Leipzig, he did that. Selke scored a brace in Hertha's 3-2 road victory. He finished off a low cross into the top corner for the game's opener, and then made it 3-1 when he bundled in a corner.
Disagree. I thought that was a sweet volley on that corner.
Yep.
Wasn't he pushed over?
He was like, the defender fell over and kind of grabbed him on the way down, so he was off balance, but still managed to hit a one-time volley off a cross.
Wow, yeah, it was a great goal.
Mm-hmm. He finishes the first half of the season with 8 goals in 9 appearances since returning from an injury sustained in the U20 Euros last summer.
He also very nearly had a hat-trick, right? Wasn't there when RB Leipzig were pushing, he broke and he got away from the defenders but then hit the post? I remember watching the highlights.
He did, and he definitely thought he scored because he was ready to celebrate all over again.
He looked very composed and ready to punish the team that let him go.
Yep.
Yeah, he did. Final scouting report from Justin Hansen, scouting Frank Kessié, the 21-year-old Ivorian defensive midfielder for AC Milan. Okay, the bad news... Milan is a dumpster fire, says Justin. They sit 8th in the table and followed up a 3-0 win over Hellas Verona in the Coppa Italia by losing 3-0 in the league to Hellas Verona, who remained second bottom. The good news, Kessié is regularly starting for Milan, with Gattuso inverting the midfield triangle to attempt to jumpstart their anemic offence. This is getting Kessié into more attacking positions, which might help a side desperate to turn possession into goals. Mm-hmm. The evidence is not great so far, though.
It's not, but I think Justin's point was that if Kessié were at fault, or Gattuso thought Kessié were at fault, he would not still be starting. So there is maybe an idea that that's at least the one player that he can rely on, and he's got to change some other things.
Oh, also, if Alec Brew is listening, I remember Alex sent us an email saying, hey, maybe Davy Selke's kind of made it, and I could, do you want me to, or can I scout someone else? Alec, if you do want to scout someone else, maybe send us a suggestion of a player you would like to keep tabs on.
Player, team, nationality.
Yeah, let us know what kind of thing you're looking for. I mean, I think Davy Selke's story is kind of exciting at the moment, but we're quite happy to switch it up if needs be.
I'm just saying, like, we could have a moment here when you abandon Davy Selke and then he goes on to score the winner at the World Cup. Just saying.
Then you'll be sorry.
Yeah.
There'll be some shouting.
That is the ultimate your scout has graduated, by the way.
Yeah, until he scores a World Cup final winner, he's not fully graduated.
Indeed.
If you'd like to join the TSS Scout Network, it is totalsoccershow.com/join. Taylor Rockwell, you over there. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you over there.
Just making sure I got your attention. Listeners,
like most of the time.
Thank you for listening.
40%.
It's going to be a short week on the Total Soccer Show this week, mostly because, peek behind the curtain, cards on the table kind of thing. I'm going out of town on Thursday. We're going back to Michigan to be with my wife's family for Christmas. So we're going to give ourselves a little break, right? Maybe the 22nd, 23rd to 27th, 28th.
I mean, I suppose so. I'm just saying, Daryl, like, it's not as though I ever go out of town to celebrate holidays with my family. They all live in Richmond.
You literally went to California. Not so long
ago.
I
forgot about that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, forgot about that old mom. Sorry, Mom. Love you.
That was just in case she was listening.
Goodbye.
There'll be a show on Tuesday.
I gotta go make a phone call.
We're going to do listener questions. There'll be a show on Wednesday. We'll do kind of a Christmas special.
Yeah,
how about that?
That works.
All right. Once again, thank you for listening. We always appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again on Tuesday.